politics and precious metals, currency and current events, and from Bitcoin to banksters, this is the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. Now, here are your hosts, Tony Arterburn and Kenzie.
I need something cool to say.
I thought that's why the gunshot existed, was to give you a cool intro.
Well, that part is cool, but then I just kind of kill it because I'm always awkward.
I was just making sure that all of these channels that we had gone live on, was it like we did a show, what, 5 years ago? How long has it been since we've done a live show?
I think it's been a couple months. It's been a long
It's been since
time.
March.
Jesus.
It's been, and there was like a break before then. So we're back, folks. This is the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show after much deliberation and finally stabilizing our business model. And Kenzie is emerged from her bunker. She's no longer on lockdown. We're doing more gold and crypto shows. This is going to be Mondays. And I told her, I was like, let's just go live. Get a show out there, update the podcast feed, let people know that we have been talking behind the scenes and working out some strategies to do a lot more media because, folks, it's crazy out there. Like we've been doing these shows for years and everything's accelerating. I've got 2 or 3 articles we'll go through today, just really quick. It's not going to be a very long show. We just wanted to reach out to everybody who subscribes and let you know where we're going to be and what to look for and all that good stuff. But it is crazy. Kenzie, welcome back to your own show. Thanks for joining me today. I know that you've been busy.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. Thanks for being like, hey, do you want to do a show today? And I was like, let's do it. Could be the most awkward show we've ever done because I'm way out of rhythm, but we'll get it done.
Well, luckily I've done, I do my David Knight appearances on Thursdays on the David Knight Show, which has been keeping me active, like making sure, because if you're going to talk to David Knight, you better have something to say. You can't wing those. So the Thursday appearances have kept me decently sharp, and I have my radio show, the Arterburn Radio Transmission. I've been doing a show called Paratruthers, kind of deep dives into parapolitics, the unknown, all that kind of stuff. But this is the show for Kenzie and myself, and talking about, currency and current events, markets and the monetary system, all that good stuff, parapolitics, precious metals. And I saw this headline right out of the box when I was like, let's do the show today. Let's talk about what's going on. And this is the gravity of the situation, folks. We've got a massive historical shift going on. Mainstream media doesn't seem to get it. The financial networks certainly don't get it. And I hope that I get it. And if anybody gets it, it's Kenzie. But this is Kitco.com. The US dollar will die with BRICS new currency, warns Robert Kiyosaki. And of course, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And just those countries alone make up 40% of the Earth's population. They've got like 25% of the world's GDP, and they are looking at countries, admitting countries like Saudi Arabia. Mexico has applied. We got a little story on Argentina coming up. I think they're in that same orbit. But did you see this article, Kent?
No, not yet.
Well,
I'm reading it as you're talking.
As I'm talking.
Yeah.
As you can see, folks, this is just us. We're just warming up. We got every Monday. You can look forward to the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show coming back, and then we've got interviews and podcasts scheduled. So you're going to want to subscribe to the feed when we're not live. We'll try to load them up to as many channels as we have here, but we're streaming on Facebook right now, YouTube, Twitter, of course, the America Unplugged channel over on Rockfin. Always a great place. But this is Kitco. The end of the U.S. dollar is near, said the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, citing an upcoming BRICS summit in South Africa as a trigger. Kiyosaki is projecting that the BRICS group, comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, will announce their new gold-backed digital currency during its summit on August 22nd to 24th and it will have dire consequences for the US dollar. Well, I've been talking about this too, but why is that? Why is it dire consequences? Well, it's because the United States is the world's reserve currency. We've been going around the world, in the words of Pat Buchanan, night sticking people as the world's policeman. We just dubbed ourselves that. And of course, really the extension of the multinational and, military industrial complex, the multinational corporations, their enforcement wing. And sometimes these other countries don't play ball, especially with our central bank. And our central bank is attached to the European Central Bank. They have the same owners. It's spoiler alert, it's not you and I. So we have 40 different sanctions on 36 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew up in our face. These countries don't want to be sanctioned. They don't want to lose their wealth. I mean, was it $640 billion was frozen by the United States? The Russian assets were frozen after this last geopolitical move by the West after the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and they took them off the SWIFT system, and now the Chinese have is it the CHIPS system? They've got a competing parallel system for converting currencies, and anyway, we're seeing that emergence that the dollar. You want some facts and figures? I've done this before, but 75% of all financial transactions in 2001 globally went on in dollars. And in 2021, it was 56%, so 20 years later. And then since 2021, it's fallen to 45%. And it's falling rapidly. So, more from Kiyosaki here. August 22nd, 2023, Johannesburg, South Africa. BRICS nations announce gold-backed crypto. U.S. dollar will die. Trillions of dollars rush home. That's called Triffin's dilemma. Inflation through the roof. Buy gold, silver, Bitcoin is going to 120,000, says Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
Robert.
We're not saying that at all. It's Robert Kiyosaki.
I'm not telling you where Bitcoin's going. I can give you a pretty accurate prediction of where fiat currency goes because I could just look on my bookshelf. I've seen every fiat currency backed by nothing goes to zero. But I definitely think the dollar's going to digital. They'll use that for the push of the central bank digital currency, something we'll definitely be talking about here on the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. But Kenzie, any thoughts on this? Have you looked into the gravity of the
the
BRICS situation?
Well, yeah, I've been keeping up with it, and it goes to show too why so many of these countries have been buying astronomical amounts of gold. And everybody goes, "Well, what's going on? What's going on?" And if you read and if you've seen their timelines, they're meeting up for this exact moment. At least we can see that they are actually buying this gold to hopefully back it digitally. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that, but if you're actually going to go back to using that as a currency, the world's population is way too massive now. It would be impossible to do without it being tied to something virtually or on your phone or whatever, right? Or maybe even a card is possible, but still, it's going to have to be backed by crypto, and it kind of gives more incentive, I would think, because so much of the world leverages, U.S. debt. You take out loans here and whatnot. This is what's messed up a lot of countries, and why they're falling in line with what's going on here is the dollar. We've got a ton of inflation. Other countries do too, but at the same time, we've got this terrible formula happening where countries can't pay back their debts, and they're choosing to use other currencies to settle these debts just because they can't get that amount of dollars, and they don't even want to hold them themselves anymore. Right. So we're kind of in this really scary position of like, how quickly could this happen? Or does the US just hit the big red button and we just go to war with everybody? I mean, I guess that's possible. And I wonder if this even ties into what just happened with XRP and why they finally got their win. Like, if you were going to do a world backed sort of gold-backed digital currency, or even if these countries wanted to do it themselves, I mean, XRP could be the highway for getting that done because it's so cheap to settle those transactions. And that goes back to using it for both as the gold-backed digital currency and just settling debts in other countries overnight instead of it taking 7 to 15 days for everything to process and a ton of money. I mean, XRP makes it almost free, even for the giant bankers to send that, and it's rapid. So I don't know. I kind of just thought about that because you had mentioned it before we got on the show, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
I hadn't thought about that. You know, going back to gold, every central bank that I know of that I've kept records of, that I'm watching in the headlines and the trends, since 2009, every central bank has been a net buyer of gold except one, and that's the U.S. The U.S. has not bought gold because the U.S. dollar is at war with value. Right, it's at war with it since it separated from gold in 1971. It's been at war with gold, and so far they've been able to kind of keep that down, like suppress it. But the BRICS nations, that's a totally different angle. So you look at these countries; they've been net buyers of gold. If they peg their currencies to gold, they have a vested interest in gold going up. The U.S., because it's a free floating fiat currency, does not want that. This is just, again, I'm not an economist. I'm a paratrooper who likes books. Okay. I'm not anything special. But I tend to look at something that's from an entrepreneurial standpoint. It's weird that, if you had the BRICS get together and they want to back their currency with gold, that they wouldn't want gold to reach its true value. I don't think gold is, and I'm not telling you what the number is. I don't know. But I don't think that gold is its actual value. I know for sure silver isn't. So it's interesting that Robert's talking about this, and this is happening so quickly. Things are accelerating, and that's what I really wanted to stress today by just doing the show, to tell people why we're back and what Kenzie and I have been discussing. First of all, Kenzie's been doing the lion's share of the back office and everything behind the scenes, the stuff that makes Wolfpack work, our subscription program, which has got close to 800 people now. And that is a lot of nuts and bolts. And Kenzie's been working that. That's why we haven't done a lot of shows. And we've been setting up a supply chain with a second location to feed that. And so anyway, we've been really busy. So just coming back to the overall big picture and why this is so important. I want to go back to this article. It's something that Robert was saying. Is his advice on how to deal with the coming fall of the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency stayed the same. Stock up on gold, silver, and Bitcoin, which he views as real money. Kiyosaki also forecasts Bitcoin to hit 120,000. Again, I'm not saying that Robert Kiyosaki is. I will tell you for the record, I'm a daily buyer of BTC.
That he is.
Yeah, Kenzie reads my emails, so she knows I'm there. You bought more BTC. This is Robert, quote, giant crash coming, fake money, aka fiat currency, to die. He's not pulling punches. This is a former Marine. I love Robert Kiyosaki. He's been a great I wish I could meet him. I've been reading him since I was early 20s. BRICS meeting in South Africa, August 22, to put the nail in the coffin of fiat fake money. Last week.
How quickly do you really think that this could happen, Tony? Like,
here's what I think. I think you're looking at a 36-month to 60-month window of when there's going to have to be some kind of shift. And what scares me is, if you look at the books behind me, I read history and I study the past. Past is prologue. Whenever there's the American Empire, and if you subscribe to my other shows, we can get into why the United States was artificially brought down, but the globalists are in control of that. And so you had this the U.S. was looted. Let's put it that way. It was on a trajectory to not have another American century. It was the Asian sphere. And you have the emergence of China as this massive economic powerhouse. They took our old playbook, had massive tariffs, told everybody else to be free trade. They really paid attention to their manufacturing, what they produced. We became consumers. We used to be a creditor nation. We turned into a debtor nation. They became a creditor nation. So they did basically the shoes on a different foot. And I think what happens is when those two things collide, when you have a new emerging dominant power, those powers usually go to war, and starts with currency wars, and then it goes to trade wars, and then actual war. I know that they have to be war gaming this because the dollar losing the world's reserve currency status kills the American empire. That's what's the lifeblood of the American empire. How do you have 700 bases in 132 countries if you don't control the world's currency? And there's something called money velocity. Again, not an economics guy. I just read history, but there's something called money velocity where money, especially fiat currency, is perceived as having value by its demand, right? One is demand. This is kind of supply and demand, and the actual supply of units in the system. So if you make too many units and the supply slows down, you have a crash currency. And, I remember going into places like, I was in the tail end of the invasion of Iraq, and we go into northern Iraq and Mosul, and they told us to go to the bank, and people were going into the bank and taking out big boxes of Iraqi dinar with Saddam Hussein's face on it. And no one was stopping them. You know why? Because it was worth zero. It changed overnight and was worth zero. And that's paper currency, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm talking about. I got to watch that as a young man. I went, wow, so it's worth nothing. Nothing. A few days earlier, it could buy something. Nothing. And they started, and people took US dollars. I guarantee you there's probably Chinese yuan running around. And of course, the Iraqi government is buying gold,
Yeah.
So you have to look at the history of paper money. And when there's no demand, the currency is like electric current. The current stops and it dies. And so I don't think Robert's being hyperbolic here. I don't think he is I think he's over the target. I just don't think it's tomorrow. These things take a little time. Every gold bug in the world has been talking about hyperinflation. You're going to need a wheelbarrow to get your loaf of bread like the Weimar Republic. The only thing that the Weimar Republic didn't have is everybody using their currency all over the world. We do. Since 1944, we became the world's reserve currency at Bretton Woods. And that's the issue, is losing that. And these countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South, they'd love to just take that and dominate, those countries coming together and knock the U.S. down off its peg. We had it coming. Look at these. I don't want to get too much into politics, but you see the people running this. The arrogance of these people.
That's kind of my problem here, and why I even asked that is because no one here, none of our leaders are preparing you or putting anything in place to help buffer the situation when this starts to happen. We aren't doing a damn thing to help fix what's coming. And that's scary. Like, are you overly confident because you think that nothing will ever replace the dollar? It's probably what a lot of people think because they don't look into it. But then the other half of it is it feels very purposeful. Like, we're not meant to make it. We're not meant to stay on top. And you just kind of feel that closing in, like the walls are starting to close in. All of these little pieces of the puzzle are really starting to come together. We were able to read the roadmaps about like 10 and 8 years ago, and some of them even before then. And now it's being done. It's built. Everything's in place. And no one here is doing anything to help you or your family for when that time comes. They're not even going to tell you about it.
No.
They're just going to act all shocked when that day comes. And a lot of people will be shocked. It's sad.
This is like rats getting off a sinking ship. That's what it is. The people that run the country, this gives me great sadness to report. I don't want to be right on this, by the way, because it's going to hurt a lot of people when the dollar loses its value. But again, I'm just the messenger. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. Nobody in Washington that has any power or perceived power is doing anything to stop this. How would you combat it at this point? Well, you'd start trying to create alliances. We don't do that anymore.
Nothing.
We have you would want to create an atmosphere of peace and investment. We want war. mean, look at the Ukraine situation. Has there any, and I know of no other foreign policy action in my life that I've read about that didn't have an off ramp for peace. We don't have one. There's no negotiation table. There's no summit. There's no nothing. No back channel communiques. It's just war. And that's it. Out in the open, we want war. Weird, isn't it? It's almost like they need it, right? And that's what I've been talking about in other platforms. And if you look at where the dollar's headed, no one's trying to stop what's coming. They don't want to stop it. And I think that should be the alarm bell. No one in Washington says, okay, well, we've lost, they have to know, like, okay, well, we created 80% of all the dollars ever created in the last 48 months to prop up, our system, to bail out the too big to fail and the multinationals and the big box. And, hey, you were not essential. Remember, you're not essential. Go home and get your $1,200 and we'll make sure all these big box stay open. And we'll pay them to stay open. We'll do the PPP and the whole thing like this. The massive, everybody had their snout in the trough, right? Well, those chickens come home to roost. Then you go keep sanctioning a bunch of people. You go from 60% of people using your currency to 56 to 42. I mean, it's just that's massive, right? So that's money velocity. So when people stop using it. And there's something that, you call it TINA. There is no alternative. The BRICS are setting up an alternative, and their alternative, by the way, is going to be pegged to gold. That's really bad for the US dollar. Anything that bolsters value, and it's funny because we always talk about, well, who's going to be the world's reserve currency? Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because gold, they're pretty much silver is the same way, but gold is a lot easier to transport because you need less of it. But if you look at gold, I mean, gold is the standard. So like whether you're in Boston or Bangladesh, the price of gold's the same.
Do you think that they're going to continue to, because this is a lot of heavy power behind this. And I know that there were roadmaps in place to even get the cost of gold to be, not so much judged just by the London exchange, but I mean, like these BRICS nations have thought of ways too they almost have a different cost for what gold is. And it'll be weird to see if that becomes the standard as well. And I have a feeling that they're not going to suppress it in the same way that our countries have. And to say that as nicely as possible is think of it almost in the same way that you would Bitcoin in a sense, because there is only so much of it available at a time. Yeah, we can pull some more out of the ground, but you're never guaranteed on how much you're going to get. So anytime you see those stupid headlines, just kind of ignore them. It's funny how they never come back and actually tell you what they got out of the ground, by the way. It's to scare you out of not buying it. They're like, look at this. It's 2 billion ounces of gold on the market. You're like, no, it's not. It's a lot of dirt.
There's a meteor. There's a meteor, and it's got a quadrillion ounces. It's gonna hit right smack dab in the middle of the Atlantic, and there'll be just gold coins. Yeah, I've heard this same nonsense.
Yeah, same deal all the time, right? And it's crazy because if we have these countries that'll be using this to settle payments and heck, maybe even to leverage things for debt, I mean, that's a lot of gold that's tied up no matter how many times you decide to fractionalize it or what you do with it. That's a lot of gold tied up that can't necessarily be moved around if they're going to actually allocate that to certain things. That's weird. Like I never say this, and I would be scared if it happened, but you could see gold or silver do moves like you have seen Bitcoin do in the past.
Parabolic.
Absolutely parabolic. Like you might need your helmet and your gun and Leviticus and a tank.
By the way, I don't want that.
No,
I like business.
That's terrifying.
I don't want these giant swings. I think I want people to be able to use gold and silver for savings. Gold and silver are money. That's what they're supposed to be, right? Here's something to chew on. There's more steel poured on the planet in 1 hour. So the steel that gets poured in 1 hour in one day, right, on this planet is more than all the gold that's ever been poured in all of history.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
folks, it's not a lot of gold. Okay, it's a finite resource. It takes a lot to get to it. And I've been reading some books on like silver mining and books tied to the just some people that are really bullish on silver. I want to know their argument, So I've dipped into that, and I mean, like only 25% of like silver that hits the market, new silver comes from silver mines. The rest of it is like byproduct
Yeah.
from like going into zinc mines and copper mines, and I didn't know that.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of supply of either of those metals. But you're talking about the reason why you should always have currencies that are backed by something is currencies should be money also, and they should be finite. And that's if they're not, they're going to get debased. And that's
Mhm.
what's happened when governments run currencies like the US dollar. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not pegged to anything. And that's why we have a deep state in America. That's why
Yeah.
we have corruption on the highest levels, is because you can just print and get out of it. You couldn't go around doing all the things that we do. So the level of corruption wouldn't be the way it is without a fiat currency. And so I'm a proponent of sound money to make a better world, and I'm not, for the record, this BRICS deal, I don't want any part of it. I don't think the BRICS are coming to save us.
Mm-mm.
Don't get on that bandwagon.
Oh, it'll be a great way to control everybody. Like, you got to actually think to yourself, are they just going to sell Americans off as stock? Because that's actually what you are. You're just stock. You're a byproduct of like living here or something. You almost have to wonder if it'll be like this form of selling people, but it'll also kind of be like World War One and Two, and it's like everybody's got to get back to work. Like, they wanted you in your home, but then you get sold off to China and they like throw you in a factory. And the factory might be here on US soil, just China owns it now. And if you want to get paid, you're going to have their special little phone, and you have to smile and wave and greet everybody that day. And
Oh, your social credit
like,
score.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to say anything bad, or some Amazon robot will come and like pick you up and throw you in the dungeon.
That's what
And
my CBDC didn't work. I can't get food. I listened to the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto show. I'm sorry, folks, if you're tuning in, your social credit score just went down because this is like the gateway show to lead you to other shows. But this is what I do for a living, so we're going to talk about precious metals. So if you're just coming into YouTube and coming in off this, we welcome you, and we won't break our channel by talking about.
my bad, everybody.
Well, I think it's fine. We're right on we're like to go and peek over the edge. Let's look at, by the way, you can follow us on the America Unplugged channel over on Rockfin. And it looks like we've got our folks in the chat there. And Rhonda Tate says, "Hey, Tony." Always good to hear from Rhonda. That's when Rhonda's there watching the show. How can I have a bad show? So thanks, Rhonda. I appreciate you. Let's see. Tom Cooper's in the chat. Good to see you. And then we've got, is that Keith Stoddard? Is that how? I hope I said it right, Keith. I'm 43 years old. It's hard to read this far away from my screen anymore. Yeah. So anyway, we've got some good folks over in the Rockfin chat. I wanted to say hi to those folks. And again, we'll be back Mondays. I've talked with Kinsey. Live show on Mondays, but if you subscribe to the channel, the actual RSS feed, I'm going to throw up some interviews, and we'll try to load up some stuff here as well throughout the week because we're busy. But Mondays are for metals and for money and the
motivation.
Whatever motivation.
You got to try your hardest on Mondays.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Let's do the next story. All right. How about we'll talk a little bit about Bitcoin, and then we're going to talk about your story about the IMF. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll tell everybody where they can find us. And thanks for listening to the show. I just want to make sure all these streams still worked. Yahoo Finance. I just looked at this through CoinDesk, by the way. Bitcoin dips below 30,000 to lowest since late June as altcoins pair gains from XRP lawsuit. Cryptocurrency markets continue to pull back from last Thursday's big gains, with BTC slipping about 2% over the past 24 hours, alongside more sizable declines in the altcoin sector. Bitcoin fell to as low as 29,679 Monday afternoon and had bounced modestly to 29,900. Ether, the second largest cryptocurrency by market cap, dropped to 1880. Smaller cryptocurrencies or so-called altcoins have suffered even steeper declines. Ripple's XRP, which led Thursday's breakneck surge after a partially favorable court ruling involving the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, tumbled 4.4% in the last 24 hours. Ripple is now lower, about 15% from Tuesday's high. Well, any thoughts on today's dip in the crypto markets, Kens?
Not very much. I mean, everybody had that initial excitement, or you could just have like hedge funds and the big bankster boys and everybody else, whales, trying to see if they can really get a move out of things. But, we had that initial excitement. I would have hoped that it didn't just continue to go off like just past Saturn or something. Like, so everybody needs their chance to catch the news and get on something if they wanted to. I would just say be careful with all of it. I mean,
so volatile.
I like it. I really like it. I just think that everybody needs to be very aware of what they're getting into and be very careful listening to like the YouTube hype boys, and same with gold and silver. Like, we're not going to come on here and tell you what price something is going to. We're going to get on here and be like, hey, go do your research, see what history says. You can experiment with some of this new stuff. Just try to protect yourself in whatever way you can. But just I'd say be careful listening to the hype boys on Twitter.
And you'll never get that from us. I mean, we believe strong. Like I can hype like our company and what we do. Like, you give us fiat currency, we give you high quality metals. I'm really proud of what we do. I like what we do. We have a great subscription program, and I'll plug that. But I'll never tell you what the price is going to be, because I've been around a while, and I know if you have a stock market crash tomorrow, let's say at a 1929 style crash, gold and silver go with it for a minute. They did this in March of 2020 when they had that wild swing. If people remember, it was like the biggest day of the stock market history, and the next week was the largest crash since 29. And then the Fed came in and they pumped a ton of fiat currency units and dollars into the system, and it inflated the bubble back up. But gold came down. Gosh, it was like 1,300. It was a massive loss. Silver was $11. No one could buy it. I mean, people were calling me.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Like, people were calling me like, I'm ready to do a trade. I'm like, well, good luck. There's no silver. I mean, no one's for selling anything at that level. That's just the paper price. But I think that's a good example. You should be cognizant that that's how that works. I mean,
well, and that was what was crazy is during that time is someone would give us a call and I would go, okay, this is what because I'm not a big fan of the Eagles or the Buffaloes just because of the premium. There's much better stuff out there for way less of a premium. Gold is gold at the end of the day, and same with silver. I can find you a cool silver coin that doesn't have a crazy premium on it. But the funny thing during that time, Tony, is I would be like, all right, here's like the one thing that I can get today. And somebody, I don't want to pay that much. This is what spot is at. And I'm like, whatever price you just gave me, I can't even get it from the wholesaler for that price. Like, that's insane. Or, hey, this is on a 2-month back order. Like, I could go ahead and lock that in, but it's, well, I'll just wait until it's ready again. You get back to me in 2 months. And I'm like, well, that's 4 months out. Oh, unknown delay. And it's just like things kept getting worse, but everybody was waiting around like, I'll wait till it drops more till you can get a better price. And it's like, that never happened. No. This is the importance of dollar cost averaging, and not just, I believe in some circumstances, it's great to know when to strike, but there are some things where you just keep up with it the same way that you do your dishes and your laundry and maintain your work life. Like the same way that you get up and brush your teeth every morning. Like, there needs to be some kind of schedule for anything that you really decide to invest in, even if it's food and water and these extra supplies. Like, if you don't have yourself on this rotation where you're constantly getting into that, you could end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, I think there's temporary swings in everything, but I'm from what I know and everything I've read and everything I've been around since I was a kid, I'm bullish on gold. I'm bullish on silver. I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I'm with Robert Kiyosaki. I'm bullish on those things. I'm bullish on cryptocurrency as a general technology. Aside from Bitcoin right now, I'm not buying any other coins right now. I might. I'm looking at other things. I used to, and I still own a ton of little altcoins and stuff that, stuff that'll never move, that I just own, I guess, is like legacy stuff that'll just sit there. But I'm bullish on it, but there's going to be temporary swings, but you got to watch out for the hype. I'm with you on that. So many people
Mhm.
got burned, it's just, you and I didn't.
Yeah.
Did
Well,
you
we
get burned
also
in the crypto winter?
no, and never like, and I don't know. I think that it's just because you keep your expectations to be pretty neutral, and then you're not set up for disappointment or something, right?
Oh,
Like, and it's also I'm just a person where I tend to use extra tools. So if something is going to go way lower, it just goes to some stupid crazy price, and there's a certain block that I'm gonna sell off and just profit from that temporarily and move on. Like,
well, I just talking to the audience, and so what Kinsey and I have discussed, and something that I've journaled and just trying to put out my notes, like what I want this show to be. This is for open source intel, and we got a lot of stuff that we want to add to the show, and we're adding to the websites and things, and so we're not ever going to be behind a paywall. This is going to be our research, and we're not throwing anything complicated at you today. Obviously, these are just some headlines and things to talk about. But we got some good stuff coming up, and I've got some industry people, both in the metals sector and the crypto sector, that we're looking at putting on the show and booking. So it ought to be a lot of fun. So we hope you stick around and subscribe and hit the like button and share and all the good stuff, because we want to come back every week and then get you some content. And you guys can thank me later for bringing Kinsey back out and going live, because unless I'm like, let's go, come on, I'm going to send you the link, let's go live, let's go talk to the people, they miss you. Let's go look at this article you sent me, and this is what I'm talking about. Kinsey's like, did you hear about the IMF? And I'm like, what, the unicoin? And they're like, no, no, not the one coin to rule them all, Tony, not the CBDC thing. It's the this is the beginning, something that ties into the first article. This is the Argentina repays an IMF loan. That's the International Monetary Fund, something born out of Bretton Woods in 1944. It repays their IMF loan in Chinese RMB yuan.
mm-hmm. They were supposed to pay that back in dollars, and got back with the IMF and said, "Hey, we're going to use this RMB here." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And they didn't even have to pay it all back at once. I think they did half of it, and the other half will come later. And this is where things start to get spicy and weird in some of these smaller countries that have been struggling. And it's strange how we're just now starting to see this, Tony, but we knew it was coming. It's what I mentioned earlier, where because of our inflation rate and where these other countries' inflation rates are, it's nearly impossible to pay this back in dollars. And now if we have the IMF, there are settlements and things happening in the yuan. Like, this is insane and it's scary, but they actually did this just because of where that is at. And I'll read that little tidbit. It's further down. So the Argentinian peso has dropped 44% against the US dollar over the past 12 months, while inflation has reached levels up to 70%. Washington has declined to intervene despite it being the country's third largest export market, as depleted peso makes its imports from Argentina less expensive. So it makes more sense to do business in another currency. And this hasn't been used too much yet, but you see how our basket is getting a little smaller, and it might continue to get a little smaller day by day, which is going to really hurt what you were talking about with money velocity earlier. We're about to be in a bad spot if this trend continues. Really, really bad spot.
The paragraph just below that, China has been active in helping Argentina through its economic and currency crisis. The central banks of China and Argentina recently renewed their bilateral currency swap agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It's valid for 3 years, according to the People's Bank of China in early June. Well, this is what, China's going around with this Belt and Road Initiative. It's building up places
I don't
like
know
that.
if it mentions this in this article, but you know what else was crazy is apparently people in these other countries, like, you can hold US dollars in your bank accounts or whatever. And now it seems like normal people and businesses have decided to start holding that Chinese currency in their bank accounts. So, like, they're swapping that out for, like, they do not want to hold dollars. So there is probably a ton of incentive from China to go in and do this, even some that we don't know about. Um, but this is the domino effect that you're kind of starting to see, guys, where it will start with these really small countries, but if you have enough of them, it that can be pretty dramatic. And when larger countries follow suit, we're going to be in the dark. It's not
It's a
great.
totally different world. I mean, we're kind of gotten used to things because we're in it at the moment. But if you really take some time to think about how far we've come from just 10 years ago, when people didn't even use the word fiat, like that was like, what are you talking about? Like that wasn't even a thing. That wasn't even on the table. Like when I ran for Congress back in 2013, nobody talked about losing the world's reserve currency status. I mean, that wasn't even that wasn't even a possibility. But it was people that I listened to were mentioning it. But I'm talking about as a whole, like the media, like it didn't filter down into the outlets. I can easily pull up an article today on de-dollarization. If you type in just the word BRICS, the acronym for BRICS, and then put like August, there's like 15 articles on the dollar's demise, from like Reuters to the Financial Times. I mean, it's everywhere. It's still not mainstream yet, not necessarily. The talking heads still don't get it. You know, like even the politicians don't get it. Like they're not going to understand. You can't keep doing the things that you're doing. There's not no that I know that like the Green New Deal and this is our World War II and we'll just print the money. You can't just print it when nobody wants it. You know, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to just be, you know, you don't get to be part of the ruling class just because you woke up anymore. It's some level in the United States of America with how our elites have been running this place. They've run it into the ground. And so I think this is a problem. That's why, you know, Kenzie and I are just wanting you to do your research and think about this, because I'm not going to be an alarmist, but I do think that we're just in for a massive amount of change geopolitically, economically, socially. And it starts with the currency, just like our current reality starts with the currency. It all tracks back to that. Fiat is fake. It's the head of the snake. I say it on my show all the time. And that's what this show's devoted for, is like a little bit of intel and some great conversation with the magnificent Kenzie. So we appreciate you being here today, folks. Kenzie, you got anything to do before we close out? I know you want to plug your projects and what you're working on, and I'll plug all our stuff, whatever you don't.
What am I working on, Tony?
You weren't running my business. I don't know. You better be working on something back there.
There's a whole lot going on. And hopefully some more improvements coming to Wolfpack here soon. And that's both on our end and you guys' end out there. And remember, that's not all we do. You know, you can also still just do direct buys. You don't have to sign up that way. Doesn't have to be all intimidating. So yeah, that's in the works, and hopefully we can just continue to knock these shows out. And I've tried to make sure that I'll be able to keep my schedule clear as well. It's probably good though that I kind of come out of the dungeon every now and again, because I just talk to my dogs and sit on my laptop all day. So need to get out more.
Well, she's being modest, folks. She's done a great job, and we reached a little bit of a stabilizing place. And most of our business comes from media, and it comes from our relationship with podcasters and other people that we call friends and people we support. So we need to be doing more shows, and this is just a time when, gosh, we need some sanity, and there's just a lot coming at us at once. So we're going to be here, and so we're going to set up the stream a lot more consistent, and with the spirit of just bringing you intel, and let's have a conversation about it, because it's crazy. And the thing, when Kenzie and I developed this show, I said, you know, people have shows on gold, people have shows on crypto, and no one does the same thing together. And so I wanted to put them together. And I think because really you look at the future, people as a whole, humanity is drifting towards decentralizing. but the powers that be, that are like with the death grip on the past, are wanting one central thing, like the IMF's got the Unicoin, not the
Mhm.
unicorn, but the Unicoin, which is one coin to rule them all. They've been with the Bank of International Settlements just put out last week that the countries need to change the constitution so they can roll out central bank digital currencies. I mean, I want to do this show just if it's nothing else, central bank digital currencies are the hill to die on. We can't allow this to happen to our country. We can't allow this to happen. We can't allow this to become a part of our everyday life, because they're going to steal our freedom. They're going to steal our liberty. We'll never get it back. People need to learn how to trade gold and silver, learn how to set up a decentralized crypto wallet and trade Bitcoin. Get outside of the system. It's your right to do that. You don't have. I mean, this whole tie back to universal basic income and a central bank digital currency. That's a death knell for people. Just having your own life. So I'm speaking out against that until I can't anymore. I think that's evil. You can call it the mark of the beast and call it what you want, but it's bad. And you'll use a crisis to set it up, but we'll see how that goes. Before I close, one thing I've noticed in studying history and studying the current politics is that the current crop of people that have the printing press, and they can make monopoly money, and they're counterfeit all they want. That makes them so powerful, quote unquote. But they're not as smart as their grandfathers. They're not as smart as their grandmothers. They're not as smart as the previous generation of conspirators. They're pretty incompetent, which is both terrifying and liberating at the same time. But I'll close with that. We've got a lot more Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto shows to come. So be sure and stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. And like Kenzie said, we have no minimums at Wise Wolf. If you want to buy $20 worth of silver, give us a call. We'll figure out how to put you in it. Okay. It's really no minimums. And if you need to sell something, you give us a call. You got some scrap jewelry, you want to mail them to either Denison, Texas or Branson, Missouri. We'll take your order. We'll make sure that it's taken care of and give you the best possible price for it. So we're a full service gold and silver exchange, never behind a paywall, none of that stuff, no gimmicks. Kenzie, do you need to add anything before I try to find where our outro music is?
Oh, I guess I better fill in some space while you find that outro music. So remember that you can follow us on Twitter, and you made a TikTok, didn't you? Like you've got a TikTok page?
Yes. So at Twitter at Wise Wolf Gold,
Mhm.
at Instagram at Wise Wolf Gold, TikTok. If you want to find us on TikTok before it's banned by people who don't want the internet.
Oh, that's not being banned. Like China just loves it so much and has so much control over us. I think we can go pretty far on TikTok. I mean, and we can provide good, valuable things instead of, like some whatever the hell people do over there. I can get really confused really fast.
With TikTok or
With
where?
TikTok. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of very low IQ things going on.
Well, I've got at Wise Wolf Bullion
Yeah.
on TikTok. I think Kenzie'd set up one, and then we just, we've got it somewhere. It may have run away. It didn't like us. We're at Wise Wolf Bullion on TikTok, and go follow us on Facebook. All that good stuff. We'll be putting that, and I'll create a better show notes page. But this is just to say thanks to everybody for sticking with us. I know we had downloads from people like every day. We had downloads on the podcast, and we hadn't put any new shows out. So I felt bad. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get new shows out. I'm putting this out today. Thanks everybody. I did find the outro. I think it's the same one. Do you think I should risk it? Should I play it, Ken?
Risk it. Let's do it.
Risk it. All right. In a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.